Hi there, I'm Spell, and holy shit was Chapter 5 good. This is going to be a vaguely scripted ramble regarding Chapter 5 and some additional matters related to my channel, which include discussing a new Deltarune video on the horizon, whether my previous theory, the Angel, the Dragon, and the Dark Fountain, was correct, my general opinion on Chapter 5, and a bit of shameless self-promotion. If you want to skip to a specific section of the video is organized into chapters. Holy crap, just like Deltarune! For your viewing pleasure. And also because this video includes a lot of yapping. Let's start off with what I was most excited to see, whether I was right or wrong in my previous theory. The first thing that comes to mind is Ralsei's fire. Now, I was so excited when I saw that Ralsei actually just shot out a fireball, and also, I kind of knew where they were going with Ralsei's fire the second that the chapter started because of the fact that I saw Susie had finally got a spare spell, and I thought, oh, that whole pattern that I noticed of every non-Chris character has a spare ability, a healing ability, and an attack ability. I was right. The pattern makes more sense, because the fact that Susie didn't have a spare spell kind of made it stand out a bit less, but now it is like fully obvious that it's like, oh, the fact that Ralsei has a second healing spell and not an attack spell is like a genuine outlier, like even more than before. Also, the fact that Chapter 5 was just called that, referred to by Gerson as like a flame of jealousy, I believe. I don't remember the exact wording off the top of my head, but that really I just enjoyed that. I was so excited to see that, like, really leaning into the fire, and the prophecy might have involved Ralsei actually burning the place down. I don't know. Maybe that's what would have happened. Next thing, the matter of Susie being the protagonist, or being the protagonist in spite of the player. I still think that's kind of true, but Chapter 5, I didn't really expect for Chapter 5. Well, I mean, I knew that it was going to focus on Chris because of the fact that, it was going to be about Asgore. It would include, going into his flower shop. That was, pretty heavily hinted, if not explicitly stated. I guess just, Chris and the player do seem more protagonist-y. I don't know, like Susie is given a bit less chances to make decisions. I also did notice there was a point where Ralsei cut off the player from making a decision in the same way that Susie does. I don't remember exactly when, and I don't have a recording of all of Chapter 5, so I'm not going to be able to show that on screen right now, but I believe that did happen. I might, put in a text clarification here to, look at someone else's video and say whether it happened. I think, to some degree, Susie might still be the protagonist and, kind of supersede Chris, but I don't know the degree to which that's true. It's kind of up in the air. Though then again, there's all of this emphasis in the Dark World on her. Well, in terms, the first Dark World, that is, going, Castle Town. So, I don't know. It's kind of up in the air. One thing that I'm very proud of myself for, though, is the Weird Route ending in Chapter 5. Now, I still believe that the Weird Route is ending in Chapter 5. And I know you might say, well, it says insert Chapter 7. The thing is, we don't get a Chapter 5 completion star yet. If you go back to the menu, it does not say that Chapter 5 is completed. So, in my mind, I think it's more so that, in a meta way, I think it's more so that the Weird Route will not be concluded until Chapter 7 finishes development. I think that's more of, an outside thing. I don't think it's going to be that, the entirety of Chapter 6 will happen whilst Chris and Noelle are diving into the lake and or crossing it. Wasn't entirely sure, actually, whether they managed to get to the other side or whether they, got fully into the water and are going down there, because Onion has dialogue saying that the song is, it's at, the bottom of the lake, but then there's also implications on the other side of the lake, and, you cross a vast body of water to get to the ice dungeon in the Mantle minigame, which I think is, I think the ice dungeon and all of that is the closest parallel we'll get to whatever's going to be across the lake, so I don't know. I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen, but I'm pretty sure that will count as Chapter 5, and I don't think there will be, a Chapter 6 or a Chapter 7. I mean, there will be Chapter 7 content because of the fact that it'll be released with Chapter 7. You have to insert Chapter 7 into Chapter 5 to be able to do that. So, I don't know what it's really going to count as, but I think the whole thing of the Weird Route ends in Chapter 5 lines up, and then that also lines up with other hints, like Chapter 5 has so many references to Chapter 1. It has, like, parallel enemies. It has, you know, the Garden of Hopes and Dreams, like that theme. It's got a bunch of parallels with, like, Starwalker, with the cake guy. I think Chapter 5 to some degree is supposed to be the ending. Whether or not the prophecy is either route is still kind of up for debate, I think. Because I expected Chapter 5 to include the roaring, and I was fully wrong about that. Then again, Chapter 5 of the Weird Route technically isn't done yet, because you need to insert Chapter 7 to conclude it. So, but the thing is also, Gerson only wrote up to Chapter 5, and then it got too much for him and he stopped, as if he couldn't continue the story after Chapter 5, but Susie could. And then again, you know, there's that whole thing of the Manto minigames being labeled as the original. One thing I didn't notice until recently, Berkeley doesn't actually show up in any of the prophecy panels. I mean, Susie and Noelle and Chris and Rouse are all, you know, kind of implied there, but then again, also the prince in the dark might end up being a princess in the dark. I'm such a believer in trans rights. We'll get into that in a second, but I really still think that, like, the game is supposed to end in Chapter 5, and the Weird Route is going to end at Chapter 5, but then again, maybe neither one's the prophecy. Who knows? I think it's still kind of up to contention. One thing that I think is a little bit less contentious is the Grand Fountain. The second that I saw that line where Flowery said, "Why don't you go seal your dark fountain?" Susie and Ralsei's reactions to that, I expected them to be more shocked. Because if they were shocked and, like, appalled, as if that was, like, completely uncalled for and unexpected, I think they would react differently. I think the way they reacted is more indicative of that's what they saw as the final prophecy. Because it would make sense of why Ralsei is like, all of this is impermanent, don't love us, don't get attached to us, it's all going to go away. I think the Grand Fountain being sealed is going to explicitly be the bad thing. Because, you know, there's that line of, like, Susie saying to Ralsei, and obviously you wouldn't let that happen. And especially it's, you know, more tragic now that Susie is using Castletown as her home. So, I don't know, it's interesting. But, one more thing that I do want to say in terms of whether my theory was wrong. I find it really interesting that Ralsei did try to save Flowery when he didn't try to save Tenna or Jackenstein. Part of my thinking of why he didn't try to save Tenna and Jackenstein is because of the fact that he saw the prophecy panel about Tenna and probably concluded that Tenna was going to die. And Jackenstein, I don't know. We don't have anything explicitly about Jackenstein in the prophecy panels. But yeah, I think it might be the case that Ralsei is genuinely under the belief that, like, all of them are doomed to die because of the prophecy. So it's interesting then that he tried to save him. And I believe Flowery said something to the effect of, you know you can't, and Ralsei said in response something to the effect of, but I have to try. I think that really adds a little bit more credence to my theory of, like, the Grand Fountain is going to be sealed, the prophecy's really bad, and, you know, the prophecy lines up with being violent. If anything, the prophecy could theoretically be, like, a route in which you just fight every enemy, and maybe not specifically the Weird Route. The Weird Route could be a deviation as well. I don't know. There's still a lot of things up in the air. I think I got more things correct than I expected to, frankly, but there are a couple things that I did get explicitly wrong. For example, the lack of the roaring happening. I thought that the roaring would happen in Chapter 5 in the Weird Route. That was fully wrong. I also thought that the Twisted Sword would be involved in the Weird Route. Again, that's also wrong, because you can't even get the Shadow Crystal in Chapter 5 of the Weird Route. You don't even go to the Dark World. So, it seems like the Twisted Sword is only available for if you do an aborted weird route, which then again, the aborted weird route might technically be a third route that has a different ending, because Birdley still gets injured, like you have the thorn ring. So I don't know, maybe the Twisted Sword has some kind of alternate thing you can do with it. I don't know. We'll have to see. But either way, my belief that would be a part of the weird route is fully wrong. It can't happen. It's impossible. So, yeah. Yeah, no. But then the other thing is also the weird route being the prophecy is substantially like less on the table, so to say, because of the fact that Chapter 5 does not include a Dark World. So, in the weird route. So that means that Chapter 5 is, without a shadow of a doubt, in the prophecy, the flames of jealousy and the pink and yellow fields. Unless the pink and yellow fields end up being across the lake, perhaps? Like, maybe Chapter 5 is supposed to have a different meaning, but then again, what would the fire be caused by? Maybe we fight Ralsei? Maybe Ralsei does... Because Ralsei also said, he said that he would be willing to try and, handle a Dark World himself. So maybe, if the Weird Route is the prophecy, it could be that he actually handled it himself. You're probably saying, well, Chris didn't open the Dark Fountain on Chapter 5 of the Weird Route, so how would that happen? Well, I'm guessing the Knight would still do it, unless the Knight is in cahoots. I mean, the Knight and Chris are in cahoots, but does the Knight want the Weird Route to happen? I don't know. Does Carol want the Weird Route to happen? Again, I'm not certain. Carol wants control of Chris and wants Chris to do what she wants, but whether or not that's the Weird Route, I think is kind of up for debate. I still think my idea of, the Weird Route being the prophecy, for certain, 100% sure, there's a lot less evidence for it. There are things that are more against it, and I'm still proud of my theory. I'm still happy that I made it. I kind of expected there to be holes in it, but now there's a little bit more evidence against it, but there's also some different evidence for it, so I don't know. I still think my exact idea doesn't really work, but I got some things right, and I'm proud of that. I guess I figured out some of Toby Fox. I don't know. With that out of the way, here are my general opinions on that chapter. Or rather, I would get into it, but I've got a hankering for a bit of shameless self-promotion. It tastes like curacao. Not the liquor, I mean the country. How do I know what it tastes like? Listen, girls gotta eat. Either way, I am very excited to announce I'm doing writing commissions. I'm going to be taking commissions for poetry, prose, research, scripts, lore, and proofreading / beta reading / editing. As you could tell, I really like writing. I mean, I wouldn't make a 1-hour-long Deltarune video essay if not, but I am so excited to get my writing out there and also be able to do some writing for you if you like. So, all of my prices are available here on my card, which is all linked in the description. I also have a link tree that connects all my socials, so if you don't know where to go and are a little bit confused and frazzled and lost, like a lost girl Deltarune, for example, you can go right there and that'll direct you to all the places you need to go. So, yeah, all of the terms of service are available on my card, all of the what I will do, what I won't do, all of the other jargon and whatnot is all there. I would list all of it here, but I don't want this ad to be too long, especially since I gotta keep your attention. Jiggly keys. If you'd like to commission me, contact me via email or by Blue Sky. Do make sure, though, to read my terms of service and read all of the stuff on my card so that way you understand what you're getting into and what the prices will be like and that sort of thing. Either way, that's all of the self-promotion out of the way, so yeah, no, if you'd like to commission me, please contact me. I'd really appreciate it. Though also no pressure, so yeah. Now we can get to my general opinions on Chapter 5, which, first off, transfem Ralsei means so much to me. She's so adorable. It's also so fun that the person who, helps her transition the most is someone who she very extremely hates. That was a very fun dynamic of... And then being able to make the decision of, do you take the blue and pink do you take the blue and pink drink voucher? Especially since, like, you know, Chris is blue and pink, but, you know, it makes this double entendre of, like, oh, blue and pink isn't transgender. And that also implies that Rouse knows what the trans flag is. And then just the line that she says to the effect of, I've never tried being a princess before, when you get to the top of the parkour challenge in Tasseltown. Oh, Rouse is so adorable. And I will be referring to Rouse with she, her pronouns from now on. I don't care. Another thing that really stuck out to me about Rouse is much, much more of a person. Like, she acts out, she has opinions, she's very firm about what she wants, who she is, and it's so nice to see. And it's also fun to see that now she's more explicitly wanting Chris. But then again, Susie kind of more explicitly wants Chris based on a certain scene. But we'll get to that. We'll get to what my next theory is going to be. Because, yep, I'm going to make a new Deltarune theory. But again, we'll get to that. One more thing circling back to trans Rouse, though, is the fact that Flowery was such an asshole for putting Rouse in a suit, despite having figured out that she's trans. Like, Flowery just knows this intuitively, and also, you know, it's kind of an asshole move to have someone be like, yeah, you're definitely trans, and not let her, you know, kind of figure it out herself. But then again, Rouse doesn't really think that she has options, and is still, you know, in contention of whether she's a person or not, so But anyway, Flowery going out of his way to put Rouse in a suit is very funny given the connotations of what he knows. Just the tone of the chapter was so good. I loved the festival. It was amazing seeing them be so happy and carefree. And it really felt like there should have been a little bit more content during the festival, but I think that might have been a little bit of the point. Like, we did get a lot of content. Do not get me wrong. I am not complaining. I'm just saying that I think it's really interesting that it kind of, to me, felt like, shouldn't there be more to this festival? Shouldn't there be, like, a bit more going on, especially since we don't get to see, like, the parade and whatnot? And it really kind of evokes that feeling of going out to an event like Pride, where you can't really go and see everything, and eventually you just get tired and you decide to just chill out with your friends afterwards and have a gay moment, you know, as friends do. Though I don't think any of my friends have picked me up and brought me part of the way into a lake before after Pride. Don't exactly say I could recall that. Just that whole scene also was amazing. I loved the whole thing. I loved the fact also that Chapter 5 was so... like, it had a lot of silly moments, but also had a lot of really serious moments. Like, we got to have Asgore explicitly state that essentially he's involved in Death disappearing, so that all was just, ugh. And Flowery being such a naive asshole was really, really fun. Like, he's so vain and petty and fake nice. He reminds me a little bit of, like, Leafy from Battle for Dream Island. Though, of course, he doesn't, like, hold it over other people's heads in the same way, like, not to the same degree, and he's, like, he does have good intentions, I think, but, man, can he be such an asshole. Ugh, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I was worried that we were gonna have, like, Flowery be more explicitly, like, Flowey, from Undertale, but that, I was pleasantly surprised. Also, the mechanics. I loved the platforming sections. I loved those fights. Those were genuinely just, like, the attack patterns were so fun. And that moment where Susie and Rouse, like, Susie says to Rouse, why do we need to wait for Chris's timing? Why don't we just do it ourselves? And then suddenly they have an outline around their characters as if they're doing co-op. Like, that idea of the player's agency being moved to Susie and now to Rouse is so good. I love the fact. I love the fact that we got to have a moment where the power got to be diverted from the player and suddenly you just have to do one step in the process and you're working with a team. It feels so much better than just, like, it really feeds into this feeling of, like, Deltarune is a strange JRPG. You are not always in control. You are not always in power. And these are people. They're not just your party members, they're people. It has that feeling just cascades through everything. Also, I loved Pink. I loved Pink so much. Pink is my, favorite character. I already loved Mad Mew Mew, but Pink is an amazing exploration of Mad Mew Mew. I also love that we got to see someone right before their descent into Shadow Crystal madness, because we saw that she was starting to get pulled by the same strings as Spamton, but we actually got to see her fuse with her body, which is also so interesting when you remember there's that whole parallel of, the weird route, or the parallel between the Shadow Crystal bosses and Chris. And now we have someone who it's like the soul and the body fused together. So I'm really wondering if there's some chance that, maybe the player kind of isn't an external entity? Maybe, the soul is also just Chris? I don't know. Maybe. There's, of course, the player is, a separate entity. We have a metatextual involvement in the story, but there's also it lends a little bit of credence to the opposite perspective, which I think is interesting. I don't think it's true, mind you, but it lends some credence to it, which I think is interesting. Either way, loved Pink, loved her fight. I genuinely, the second that Bomberman bombs got thrown in there and Hatsune Miku started singing, I knew that this was going to be my favorite fight of all time. I would be showing footage of it in the background right now, but I forgot to get a save right before it, and I'm not going to play through all of Chapter 5 again and get all of the big coins again just for that. But I will later for my next video, I promise. Pink is amazing. I love Pink. I love trans femmes. I love when trans characters get into the story. Ugh. And Miku. I was so elated to see that Miku is there. I am a Vocaloid fan. I mostly love Kazane Tero, but I was so excited to see that. The second I heard of Miku, I'm like, this is the best. This is genuinely the best ever. One thing I love is there are so many queer undertones in Chapter 5. With Ralsei and Chris, there's stuff between, of course, Chris and Susie, Chris and Noelle, Susie and Noelle, that's, more explicit. It was amazing. Seriously, just spectacular. I love the queer elements of Deltarune. I love how it weaves things in. I also find it really interesting. I didn't expect Pizza Pants and Nice Cream Guy for that to happen, but that makes a lot more sense than if, Pizza Pants was suddenly like, oh, you're the real Pizzerina, I love you. I'm so excited to see what the fuck happens to Pizza Pants, cause depending on who we choose there, that probably, it's gonna go bad for him, I think. I don't think things are gonna go well for our good old buddy Pizza Pants. I have no idea what's gonna happen, so... man, still, I love Deltarune. I love the queer undertones. Speaking of queer undertones, let's get into what my next theory is going to be. I won't spill all the details, as this video will be coming out fairly soon-ish, I guess. I mean, I am going to be accepting commissions now, so I don't know how much time I'll have, especially since university. I'm going to be going back to that in September, so I'd like to get it out soon, but no promises or guarantees. I also don't know how long it's going to be, so we'll see. But, take it like a Toby Fox deadline. Take it as a vague indication that something will happen within the span of months. I don't know, man. But what I can say right now is I'm going to pitch you a ship based on a bunch of threads I've woven together. Which one, we shall see. No, it's not Birdly. Why would it be Birdly? Get him out of here! Also, I did just want to say, I didn't forget about the poll. The In Stars and Time and Dial Town and Super Lesbian Animal RPG video is still gonna come out. I just wanted to get some stuff out quickly after the new chapter, as it's been on my mind as of late. Plus, the RPG Maker video is a much bigger and more complicated video to make, especially because it involves recording ample footage of 3 different games. So I want to take the time to prepare and hone my skills a bit more before I dive into that project. However, I would like to say I also plan to make a video on Pronon Palace at some point, possibly one exploring the story, though I'll have to get good enough at the game to beat the higher difficulties and get what scraps of story info I can from those interactions. So, Too Long Didn't Watch, new theory about a ship will be coming out within a several months, maybe, possibly. We'll see. Either way, thank you so much for listening, and especially thank you if you watched the whole thing. I'm looking forward to making more videos in the future, and as stated before, please reach out to me if you want any writing commissions. Until next time, bye!